that it's not there.
Who is this we? We is only Parliament.
Treasury.
The executive are coming with their bowl to beg for the resources from Parliament, the same as counties. It is not for the national government to dictate. Yeah, it's not for the national government to dictate how much should go to the counties. And I must insist on this. It is the responsibility of Parliament through division of revenue.
Right.
That is why the national government should not have appropriated what they don't have. They should have waited for division of revenue to be concluded.
Okay.
Then we can do appropriation bill.
Fair enough.
And if you had me say that we lost the battle,
but not the war, right?
But not the war. The reason was we will pursue the constitutional position of the relationship of appropriation bill at both levels of government and division of revenue. If the courts made the right decision, which is the constitutional right position, that you cannot appropriate before division of revenue passed, then proper negotiations will happen last year. Remember, in 2013, and I want to just remind people, in 2013, the Senate did not pass division of revenue. Why? Because National Assembly and national government colluded, passed division of revenue, and ignored Senate. We went to court, and although the courts delayed, it made it possible in 2014 up to now for the Senate to participate in division of revenue. So what we did as Senate was to do what was practically possible in the benefit of the nation, but ensure that we pursue the ultimate constitutional position that will be for the many years to come. And you cut me short when I was making the most important position.
Please make that position briefly.
People must remember that presidents come and go. President Uhuru Kenyatta may be benevolent, he may be nice, he may be a honest man, but there will come another president who could be a dictator. And he could just wake up and say, counties can get 200,000, they do what they want, we are working on national government, forget about it. So it's important for all of us to always appreciate that we must do things for posterity.
Fair enough. We move on to the handshake quite briefly and quickly. On March 9th, he said, quote, handshake is the worst political fraud ever. Why do you believe that this handshake is a fraud and not a way to bring the country together the way in which the first handshake that you allude to between the president and the deputy president did?
Because one side of the handshake, which is the Jubilee side, led by President Uhuru Kenyatta, believes that the handshake was to bring people together. It had nothing to do with elections, and it has nothing to do with 2022, and it has nothing to do with changing the constitution. The president has insisted, he said in Muranga, he said it even this week, that it has nothing to do with creating positions of power, it has nothing to do with changing the constitution, it has nothing to do with 2022. Our friends on the other side, are telling us that this handshake is about sweeping some people as a tsunami. It will take them to the sea. Do you know what tsunami is, Anne? You know what has happened in Bahamas? Yes. And what tsunamis have done, the one that did great damage in India. Do you believe, honestly, that a person who came to a handshake to unite the country would use even such a language that it was about us versus them? It's about the handshake is coming to sweep a certain group of Jubilee politicians and take them to the sea and destroy them.
Fair enough. Let me ask you this then. You have talked about the fact that on one side, the Jubilee side was very honest in going to it, and it's been more than a year since this handshake. Why do you think, if that is in fact the position, that the president, who was the handshaker for your team, would continue in something which would conspire against one side? Why does he not see it that way 1 year on? Because he continuously tells people, support the handshake, including today.
Absolutely. But the handshake, the handshake of President Uhuru Kenyatta, as he understood and he told us, is not the handshake of Raila Odinga.
Is he oblivious of the arguments of his own deputy side?
I think every time the president has always answered the former prime minister by telling him all the time, it's not about 2022, it's not about elections, it's not about changing the constitution. But unfortunately, every time the president says that, the other one keeps saying it's about changing the constitution, it's about tsunami that is coming, it's about all this. It is this deceit that has been imported by our friends who have not been working with us that made me believe that this is political conmanship.
Is there a way to differentiate between the handshake and the BBI, or is it one and the same for you?
I thought it was the same thing.
It is the same?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing.
If that is the case, and again I return to you, that you believe that the president is an honest broker, then clearly there is something from your point of view that he is not seeing. or that he does not necessarily agree with, or otherwise why would he remain in an equation like that? Or is it due to the so-called uchawi of Raila's camp, which you often allude to? Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think the president is a practical politician. As a result of the handshake, there is calm, there is no opposition in the country, there is no mandamano, there is quietness, and there is this little deceit at the corner there that somebody is preaching that it will be about 2022. For as long as that person is saying President Kenyatta will support him in 2022, it's about President Kenyatta in his own heart knowing that he never promised anyone to support them. Number two, I think he's making a practical decision that we have problems with this handshake in the way my partner has understood and he is preaching, but for as long as there's calm in the country and gives me room to do my things, we can survive with it as the time being. Meanwhile, people like myself help in calling out the deceit of the other side so that,
but do you feel
that in 2021 or 2022, they don't come back and say President Kenyatta betrayed us.
Do you feel betrayed now?
I don't feel betrayed myself.
Why can't the deputy president and Raila Odinga, the ODM leader, bury the hatchet in the same way the president and the deputy president did? Because surely their argument was much worse than this one right now.
Do you think they have? Do you think that Raila Odinga and the president have buried any hatchet? I don't think so.
You don't think they are?
What Raila Odinga has just established and learned is that you cannot longer fight with someone who has nothing to lose. President Kenyatta has nothing to lose. He's not a presidential candidate. He's retiring and so forth. So the only thing is
political expediency on his end as well?
It's just political expediency on his side to just buy time, pretend that he is helping President Kenyatta as he prepares himself to now later say he expects support from President Kenyatta. That is it. It is not for, if President Kenyatta today was running for president in 2022, you would never
there would be no handshake?
There would be no handshake.
What do you think of the BBI? I know you've said it's the same as handshake, but I'll still ask, as Senate Majority Leader, are you privy to any report, perhaps, and what is your position?
I must say very clearly that my position is the position of President Uhuru Kenyatta, that the BBI was going to make recommendations that facilitate an environment that we work together as brothers and sisters, no fighting, no fault, and so forth. That it has nothing to do with the politics of 2022, and that it has nothing to do with changing the constitution. If they come with any of the two, then I will know that that is not a recommendation of the president, because the president is an honest man. He could not possibly be lying to us. And number two is that I have not cared to go and find out.
Even if the people of Kenya said this, they've been going around the country collecting views.
I don't think BBI, you know very well that BBI has not been about the people of Kenya.
I do not. Why would you say that? They've been going around the country collecting views from Kenyans. You know,
the BBI has been going to certain choreographed meetings that are organized by county commissioners with a few people in an office. I have never seen, I don't even know when they went to my county, and I don't see any leader who was even available. Many governors, you had them saying that they only hear that they were here or they were there. And the reason is obvious, because it was not expected that they were going to make recommendations that are going to make a big difference in the country. So the reality of what I know about BBI is that it is, I saw a civil society report led by Professor Yashpal Gai and team, who came up with a very serious indictment that it shrouded mystery. It has nobody knows what they are doing, nobody knows they report to who, and so you would greet it with caution. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Fair enough. Quickly on the referendum, you've talked about Punguza Mizigo on 20th of July on your Twitter account, and to paraphrase, you said MCAs have a great opportunity to stamp the authority on this one, and they should basically kick the baby down the road to yourselves. I mean, do you support, it was taken first to mean that you support the Punguza Mizigo initiative. Is that in fact the case, and are you supporting it purely to prove a point? No, I haven't applied my mind on Punguza Mizigo because it will formally come to the Senate. So at that point in time, we will critique, we will read, we will do all that. So why should MCAs the point I was making about MCAs is that I was just making a very important intervention on behalf of MCAs. The document, the few pages I've read, are very supportive of what MCAs are doing, and is very colorful insofar as counties is concerned and resources of counties. And if I was a member of county assembly, this would be the document we would use to make a statement to the nation that we cannot be ignored. You know why I'm saying this? MCAs have always been the a punching bag for everybody. If anything goes wrong in devolution, MCAs are traveling. Yet in parliament and executive and everybody travels, including Raila Odinga went to Indonesia with public money. And he's not working. I am saying that because he's been very vocal against the MCAs. And so all this conversation about MCAs this, MCAs that, if MCAs are now going to allow themselves to be dictated by political forces like myself or any other person to tell them, don't pass this document. I think if they need to stamp the authority and they believe in the things that are in Punguza Mzigo that relate to themselves, I would rather they even pass it and send it to us, even if it fails in the Senate National Assembly, but for people
but surely
to
something as important as a possible referendum, do you think that MCAs should only be seeking to prove a political point that we can do this, or should actually consider the merit of the document in front of them?
And I think the important meritorious position they should consider is the question of money more going to the counties and money going to the ward level. And if that is not something that will attract MCAs, then nothing else. If they fail to apply their minds independently and dictated by the rest of us, because most of us, including myself, have doubts about this report from Punguza Mzigo. But if my county assembly was going to agree with me, then they would never have another opportunity.
So you were just being expedient on that. Last Thursday, you talked as the Senate on that loss of division of revenue, and you said, quote, there needs to be a redesign of the composition and roles of the National Assembly to ensure that the House at all times serves national interests. Very briefly, if you would, because this appears to be a proposal to change the Constitution. What do you mean by redesign and composition?
I chaired the committee of the Senate in 2016 that came up with constitutional amendments to make bicameral legislature work better and for devolution. And we have a huge document. My vice chair was Mutula Kilonzo Jr., Kiraitu was in the team, among others. Orengo was also in our team. We have made a voluminous document that when the time comes for us to discuss about amending the Constitution, that is what we will present as Senate. But briefly, it's just to make sure that the Senate of Kenya operates like the Senate in the United States, where all laws that originate from the National Assembly come to the Senate as an upper house for clearing, and approvals of importance of constitutional office holders be moved to the Senate. And in my view, this is my personal views, I think if we want to equalize this country, I am not very far from what you've heard the Majority Leader National Assembly say. I would be personally, and this is not the view of President Uhuru Kenyatta or Jubilee, my personal view is that if we want to make this country less politically volatile, we should have a parliamentary system of government where the Prime Minister sits in the National Assembly, and we should not have deputy prime ministers. Just have a prime minister sitting in the National Assembly, and you have ministers coming from National Assembly. You have a Senate, which is an upper house, and constitutional office holders approved from the Senate. And then, you know, you have senators now performing the role of clearinghouse for all bills and checking the ministers who are sitting in the National Assembly.
When is the proper time to bring that proposal forward?
I think President Uhuru Kenyatta told us and he requested that we should not engage in any politics, including referendum, to give him room to do his Big Four agenda. It might be very difficult to have a Jubilee-supported referendum in this term of President Uhuru Kenyatta.
So it should happen after the election?
I wish. Because if you say after
should it happen after the election?
If it happens after the election, we again postpone this system of government, because it should be the one used for the election, so that when we go to election 2022, we don't have an election of a president. Everybody goes to run in a certain constituency. We meet in parliament. The bigger party come with the prime minister, and we will not have this thing.
Should a referendum happen now?
I think
not.
That
what's your personal
position? If we were to agree on the issues, and you know, at the moment there is no national process for amending the Constitution. If the president was to really agree and sit with all of us, and we can call a national leadership conference and agree and say we want to have a constitutional review process, we should put a small team like the one for Yash Palgai, to work on something. And maybe somewhere in 2021,
build consensus and
have a document that we fairly agree. Somewhere 2021 there, we pass it, so that 2022, we should not have presidential elections, in my opinion.
Okay, let's talk about the one corruption very quickly.
But I must apologize because I know...
what happens to your...
many of my friends. Many of my friends, including...
Your key friend.
Many of my friends, all of us who support Jubilee, and maybe my friends who are close to the deputy president and so forth, who believe that he has already done or whatever, may not be very happy with this. But you see, in politics,
but those are your views.
It's my views, and it is for posterity.
And let
it
us
may
move
happen
on.
now or may not happen.
Fair enough. Corruption back